Hello everybody, and welcome back to U University. I'm Dr. Kelly. Well, guess what? It's not raining today. The sun is actually shining and we're having a pretty nice fall day. Over the weekend, we did get a lot of rain and even a little snow, but luckily it melted when it hit the ground. We don't have school this whole week for Thanksgiving break, and I've already been taking advantage of the time off. I just took a couple of days and enjoyed not having to grade any papers or write up reports for committees or other school-related things. I watched some movies with my husband and even got a little bit of knitting done, which I'll show you a little later. The bad news is that I think I might be getting sick. I haven't been feeling that great for the past few days, and I kind of have a sore throat. So for those reasons, I'm recording this video the day after my recording schedule, my regular recording schedule, and hopefully my voice can make it through to the end. I do want to say a quick hello to everyone who has sent me a card or letter recently. These are all the lovely cards and letters I've received, and thank you for taking the time to do that. I will write you back, and I'm getting my cards sent out this week while I'm off from school. If you do want to write to me, my mailing address is down below in the information box. I am a big fan of snail mail because who doesn't like getting a nice note from someone in their mailbox? Well, the holiday season is upon us. Thursday is Thanksgiving here in the US, and Black Friday is coming up right after that. You know, I was seeing a lot of Black Friday ads lately, and I was thinking, boy, are they putting those out early this year? And then I realized, hey, that's just like next week, and now it's this week. So the holiday season is officially beginning in just a few days. Now, speaking of Black Friday, I did want to mention one deal that I saw that you might be interested in. A few months ago, I did a show about craft lighting, and in that I talked a lot about OT lights. They are my favorite craft lighting because they put out a lot of light, and it's natural, neutral light, so your yarn or fabric will look true to color. Anyway, I saw that Joann is having 60% off OT lights on Wednesday and Friday of this week, and that's November 22nd and 24th. So it's not only Black Friday, but Wednesday too. Now, I am not sponsored by Joann or OT Light, but as I said in my craft lighting video, I have a lot of OT lights myself, and I've never paid full price for them. I always use a coupon or shop the Black Friday sales. So with this upcoming sale, you could get a $100 OT light for $40. And also don't forget that you can buy replacement bulbs on sale or with a coupon. I have this one on hand for when one of my desk lamps burns out. And I love getting these regular OT light bulbs because you can turn any lamp in your house into an OT light. Now I get these on sale, and I have these in my lamps all over the house. So even if you already have craft lighting, you might want to buy some replacement bulbs while the sale's going on. And in case you missed my craft lighting video, I'll link that below if you want to check it out. I did want to mention something else that I got in the mail this week. And this, I wanted to mention it because I think this could be a cute little stocking stuffer. This is a needle and crochet guide with yarn cutter, and it's from Knitter's Pride. Okay, first of all, I really wanted to see this in person because it's so adorable. As you can see, it is in the shape of an elephant. The edges around the top and the bottom have notches that correspond to different sizes of knitting needles and crochet hooks. So you just dip your needle or hook into the groove and read the corresponding size. And I do like that the measurements are in both US sizes and metric sizes. The cutout in the middle is a gauge ruler, which measures 4 inches wide by 1.5 or 1.25 inches tall. So with that, you can just place it over your swatch and count the stitches in an inch, as well as the number of rows in an inch. And lastly, there's a handy little yarn cutter, which is a blade near the elephant's trunk. To use that, you just fold the yarn in half and place it under the blade. Try to do this between the elephant's body and the trunk, and pull up on both ends and it will be cut. The nice thing about this is that the blade is protected, so you can't cut your finger. Now overall, the size of this tool is 3 inches tall by 6 inches long, so it should easily fit into your project bag or a larger notions pouch. The printing is all embossed in black ink. It's easy to read, and I've even run my fingernail over it quite a bit in several places just to test it out and see how robust the print is, and nothing has chipped or flaked off. So it seems like the print is not going to rub off from regular use. Now the whole thing is made from a single piece of sturdy plastic. It is pretty solid, but it's only about 1/4 of an inch thick, so could it break? Probably, if you tried to snap it in half, but I think you'd really have to mishandle it to break it. I think for normal use, it would be fine in your project bag. There's no snagging edges, even on these cutouts. The corners are not super sharp, and you could always keep it in the plastic sleeve that it comes in if you wanted to. Now these needle gauges come in 2 colors. This pink one is called Blush, and there's a purple one called Lilac. And I think both of these colors are really pretty, so you can't go wrong. This would be a great little stocking stuffer or a swap gift. The price is only $2.99, and I'll put a link below so you can go check them out for yourself. And again, this is the Knitter's Pride gauge for knitting needles and crochet hooks. And thank you so much to Stitchcraft Marketing and Knitter's Pride for sending me this to review. Now let's move on to today's show topic. Now this is the 3rd video in my holiday series. A couple of weeks ago, I did a holiday gift guide for knitters. And last week, I showed you a lot of freebies, things that you can get for free to give as gifts or to enhance your gifts. And today I'm going to talk about some quick projects that you can knit for holiday gifts. Now, I have to admit that this was really hard to put together. There are just so many patterns to choose from. So I really had to narrow my focus, and I did that in a couple of ways. First, I'm only going to talk about knitting projects because I'm a knitter, but if you're a crocheter, you'll be able to find similar projects by simply searching on Ravelry or doing a general Google search. And second, I decided to concentrate on some of my favorite projects that I've knit myself, so I can actually show you most of those here in person, or at least a picture from my project page on Ravelry. And then I will talk about some of my favorite pattern books, which contain projects that can be knit in a short amount of time. So everything is going to be about fast holiday gifts to knit. And I'll put links to everything I talk about today in the description box below this video. You may need to click on Show More to open up the box completely, but all the links will be right there. So let's get to it. Okay, so today I have a list of 12 of my favorite items that you can knit up quickly for holiday gifts. Well, these could be gifts for any time of year, but I know right now a lot of us are scrambling and trying to figure out what to make for some of our loved ones, and hopefully you'll find some inspiration and ideas in this list. Now, keep in mind that there are probably thousands of patterns that you could knit up in a short period of time. But the ones I'll tell you about today are some of my personal favorites that I have made over and over again, and I'll likely be making some of these for gifts again this year. And then after that, I will give you some book recommendations, and these books have awesome patterns that are fast knits. Almost all the patterns I'm going to talk about today are available for free. I think there are only 1 or 2 patterns that you have to pay for, but they're only a few dollars, and I think they're worth it because the patterns are so nice, so I wanted to include them. Also, most of these patterns are knit with heavier weight yarns from worsted to bulky weight, so that's another reason that they'll knit up really fast. So I'm going to start today with a scarf that I'm currently working on, And I showed this scarf in my video a couple of weeks ago. It's my version of the Noro stripe scarf, and I found a pattern on Ravelry actually. It's a free pattern by Jared Flood, but he admits that he is not the original designer of this pattern. It is just kind of a common scarf pattern that people have made for years. He just wrote down the version that he does. So he does the scarf in 1x1 rib, and I'm doing this one in 2x2 rib. But I found the pattern so that you would have something to look at if you wanted to try this. The reason that Noro yarn is so popular for this type of scarf is that it has long color changes, but you don't have to use Noro. You can use any yarn that has those long color changes, gradient, or transitional colors. And you can either pair the transitional yarn with a solid color yarn like I'm doing, or you can use two different transitional yarns. And if you do that, you're going to get one color change going one way and a different color change going the other way, which is kind of neat. But as I said, I'm doing one transitional yarn with a solid yarn, and both are worsted weight. The transitional yarn is Plymouth Boku, which is a wool silk blend, and the solid color yarn is Plymouth Select Worsted Merino Superwash, which is 100% merino wool. Each stripe in this scarf is 2 rows, so you knit across and then back and then switch colors, and both yarns are just carried up the side. I'm slipping the first stitch on each row, which makes a nice smooth edge, plus it nicely hides the yarn that is being carried up the side. Now I am just a little over halfway done with this scarf. I just started on the second skein of Boku. I haven't had a lot of time to knit on it lately, only because my semester has been pretty busy. But since we don't have school this week for Thanksgiving break, I should be able to actually make some progress on it, and I'm sure I'll get it finished by the end of the week. I am in love with this scarf. I love the striping with the color transitions alternating with the solid color. Plus the ribbing makes it really squishy. So this is definitely one project you could knit quickly, and it's fun with the striping and the color changes. Another favorite scarf that I've made that is kind of different than most scarves is a long striped scarf, which is one where the stripes go all the way down the length of the scarf instead of across it. And I found a free pattern for this one on Ravelry, and it uses super bulky weight yarn and a US size 13 needle, which is a 9mm. You could use worsted weight yarn held double for this one if you don't have any super bulky yarn. You could even use leftover yarn to make the stripes so you don't have to go out and buy more yarn. The whole pattern uses only about 150 yards of yarn, which is not all that much. Now this one is all garter stitch, so it would be very simple for even beginning knitters. Now I made one of this type of scarf years ago. It's not that particular pattern that I just showed you, but it has been my all-time favorite scarf. And here it is. So I made mine so the stripes switch from stockinette to reverse stockinette. I think I knit 5 rows of stockinette stitch, then switch colors and knit 5 rows of reverse stockinette. So the knit stitches are showing in one color, and then the purl stitches in the next color, and so on. You can see here that this stripe is stockinette with the knit stitches facing out, and then this stripe is reverse stockinette with the purl side facing out. It creates this really neat undulating design and super squishy feel. Now I use DK weight yarn, so if you use bulky weight yarn like that pattern I just showed you, it would go way faster. The yarn I used, I don't remember all the yarns I used, but I know a couple of them were baby alpaca, so this is just a joy to wear around my neck. And I finished mine with tassels, a fringe on the end. So this is a really fast and easy project that would be an amazing gift to give. The next pattern is another all-time favorite of mine, and I've made it over and over again for myself as well as for many gifts. This is the Summer Flies shawl, and it used to be a free pattern on Ravelry, but now it costs $6. I really think it's worth the $6, and that's why I include it in my list. I love this shawl so much. I love the look of it, and I love knitting it. It calls for worsted weight yarn, and I've made it out of many different yarns. Here are two that I kept for myself. This green one is my favorite, and it's made out of a silk cotton blend. It's mostly silk, like 80% silk, and it's so soft and drapey, and the silk is actually pretty insulating, so it keeps you nice and warm. And this purple one is made out of targhee wool. It is not as drapey, but it's very squishy, and it's soft enough to wear around the neck. Now here's what I love about this pattern. It is not difficult at all. I'd say you might need to be about an intermediate level knitter, but an ambitious advanced beginner would probably be fine. The shawl consists of a series of panels that go across the width of it. Some of the sections are simple stockinette stitch and some are open work, kind of lacy. But you're always doing something different. You don't get bored by doing the same thing all the time. The pattern is always being switched up. So that makes it go really fast. The other thing that I really love is the picot edging. I absolutely love the look of picot on the bottom edge of a shawl. I will say that I don't love doing a picot bind off because it takes such a long time. But overall, the shawl is a quick knit, it's beautiful, and it can be made out of pretty much any worsted weight yarn. So that is Summer Flies by Donna Griffin. Okay, my favorite sock pattern for a quick project is this one called Easy Peasy Socks for First Timers by Stacy Trock. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and it uses about 200 yards of worsted weight yarn. I love this pattern because it's very fast to knit up. If you're used to knitting socks with fingering weight yarn, you will think these are a breeze because they probably take half as long to make. They're shorty socks, and they would be great to use for house slippers. Now, I made these several years ago out of an alpaca wool blend, so they are super soft and squishy. They're really thick and warm. I actually made the cuffs a little bit taller than the pattern called for, but if you're a beginning sock knitter, this is the perfect pattern for you to learn with. The pattern includes lots of helpful hints and notes for first-time sock knitters, but you will need to know how to join the yarn in the round and how to do decreases like knit two together and slip slip knit, and how to do the Kitchener stitch to close the toe. But again, this is a really great pattern for a quick gift, and I've made several pairs of these Easy Peasy socks by Stacy Trock. Mittens are another awesome gift to give in the winter, and my favorite mitten pattern is called Warmest Mittens by Chris Percival. It's another free pattern on Ravelry and uses 200 yards of worsted weight yarn. These are knit on slightly smaller needles than you might usually use with worsted weight yarn to create a tightly knit mitten. Like you might use a US size 8 or 5mm needle normally. But for these you use US sizes 4 and 5, which that's 3.5 and 3.75mm needles, and that makes them super warm. And again, this is a very easy and straightforward pattern. It is the first mitten pattern I ever used, and I really enjoyed it. In fact, I've liked it so much that I've made lots of different mittens from this pattern over the years. I've given a lot of mittens for Christmas presents. These mittens have a ribbed cuff, and then the rest is plain stockinette stitch, so you don't have any fancy pattern work or anything like that. But that and the worsted weight yarn make them knit up fast, so I highly recommend this Warmest Mittens pattern by Chris Percival. If you're interested in making some beautiful fingerless gloves as a gift, let me suggest my absolute favorite ones, and that is Susie Rogers' Reading Mitts. This is another free pattern, and this one uses DK weight yarn. It comes in 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large. And here I have a couple pairs of these mitts that I've made. These golden brown ones are Madeline Tosh DK, which is 100% merino, and the purple ones are from High Prairie Fibers, and it is a wool silk blend. Now, I love this pattern. I think these fingerless gloves are so beautiful. They have a picot edge on both the top and the bottom, which is done with the hem, and I like that method way better than doing a picot bind off. But I still love that picot edge, and I love the little design elements on the top and the bottom, which is a single row of open lacy stitches bordered by a couple of garter stitch rows. Then the whole rest of the glove is stockinette stitch. So again, it's a fast, fun knit, and I made lots of these as gifts. And again, that is Susie Rogers Reading Mitts. For hat patterns, I have two favorites. For just a simple, plain hat, I love the 4-Hour Hat Bulky by Marilyn Clark. This is another great pattern for a beginner knitter because there's nothing real complicated here. It has 3 inches of ribbing at the bottom or the brim, and the rest is all stockinette stitch. So basically you just need to know how to knit in the round and do knit, purl, and decreases. This hat is made with bulky yarn, so again, it knits up really fast. This blue one I made with a bulky wool alpaca blend, so it's really squishy. And this second one I made with stripes out of Romney. The pattern does not include a striped option, but I just alternated colors every 5 or 6 rows and I did carry the yarn up the inside so I wouldn't have to weave in so many ends. Now, this is a really nice hat that would be appropriate for male or female gift recipients. When you wear it, you probably want to fold the brim up so it looks really nice. And with that double thickness, it keeps your ears extra warm. You could top this off with a pom-pom as well. So that is the 4-Hour Hat Bulky by Marilyn Clark. And really, it's designed to knit in 4 hours. My other favorite hat pattern is the Irish Hiking Hat by Black Horse, which is another free pattern on Ravelry. This is a beautiful hat with cables and ribbing. I've made several of these for gifts, so I don't have one here to show you, but this is a picture of one that I made for my sister. This hat has 2x2 ribbing around the brim, and that goes into a lovely cable pattern throughout the rest of the hat. If you've never done cables, this is a good pattern to learn on because it's written very clearly and the cables are only a few stitches and not difficult at all. So the hat knits up really fast and you end up with this gorgeous finished product. You could definitely put a pom-pom on it too. Now, a neat thing about the Irish Hiking Hat is there is a matching scarf that goes along with it. It is the Irish Hiking Scarf, and I've made a lot of these scarves as well. This is a free Ravelry download and is made with worsted weight yarn. It'll take about 2 skeins of yarn to make this scarf, and this is another one of my favorite scarf patterns. I totally love the beautiful cables that run all the way up the length of the scarf. This is an Irish hiking scarf that I made for myself out of chunky 100% wool. You might recognize it if you saw my video on pom-poms, tassels, and fringe, because this was the scarf that I was showing as an example of how to put fringe on a scarf. So in case you haven't seen that video, I'll link it below if you want to watch that. Now, I originally knit this scarf with no fringe, and I really like it decorated with the added fringe on the ends. But yeah, I just love this pattern. It's definitely my favorite cabled scarf pattern. And as I said, I often make these as gifts for people. You could totally make the Irish hiking scarf along with the Irish hiking hat and give them as a set. I have done that many times and the recipients have always loved it. Next, I wanted to talk about a couple of cowl patterns that I love. And the first one is called a Noble Cowl. It's another free pattern, and this one is made with DK weight yarn. It's an easy lace pattern that requires less than 200 yards of yarn. I've made so many of these as gifts, and they're beautiful and fast to knit up. This is one that I've kept for myself, and I wear it all the time. The yarn is a silk wool mohair blend, and I'm not usually a big fan of mohair, but this yarn is mostly silk, and less than 20% mohair, so it's super soft and drapey from the silk, and it has a pretty halo from the mohair. Now you could use any DK weight yarn you want. The only thing I do different now, since I made this one, is that I make sure that I use a stretchy bind off. This one has kind of a tight bind off, so it's not very flexible. If you're doing one, just use a stretchy bind off like the Russian or lace bind off, where you knit the stitches together through the back loop. So anyway, this pattern is a Noble cowl, one of my favorite quick knits. My other favorite cowl pattern is the Dry Dock cowl, which is a beautiful chunky lace cowl. This is a free pattern and you use bulky yarn. You only need about 100 yards of yarn for this one. It's kind of small, but it's just enough to go around your neck, inside your winter coat, and keep you toasty. As you might be able to see here, it's lacy, but there are only 3 repeats of that lace panel. So that, and making it with chunky yarn, means that you'll be able to finish it really fast. Plus, it's a very easy lace pattern, nothing too complicated. I made this one out of chunky baby alpaca, so it's super soft and squishy. So this is another one that will be a really nice, quick gift. And that is the Dry Dock Towel by Jocelyn Tunney. All right, my last favorite pattern is for a pair of leg warmers. And you can just use these for plain leg warmers or as boot liners or even boot toppers. The pattern is simply called Leg Warmers, and the designer is Jane Richmond. It's free on Ravelry. These are really easy and straightforward to make. They're just plain 2x2 ribbing, so nothing complicated or fancy. That makes this another perfect pattern for beginning knitters. It requires only 1 skein of worsted weight yarn, and I used a skein of 100% merino wool. The ribbing plus the soft yarn makes them super squishy and comfortable. On these, again, I would recommend using stretchy cast on and bind off methods. My favorite cast on is, for stretchy cast on, is the Old Norwegian or German twisted cast on. And as I said, my favorite stretchy bind off is the Russian or lacy bind off. And that concludes my list of fast favorite holiday gifts to knit. Next, I wanted to share with you some book recommendations for gift ideas that you can knit fast. So first, I'm going to recommend a set of pattern books called Quick Knits. Now, I have 3 of these books, but there are actually 12 books in this series. The ones I have are 60 quick knits, 60 more quick knits, and 60 quick baby knits. The book 60 Quick Knits contains patterns made out of worsted weight yarn. The book suggests Cascade 220 yarn, but really you could use any worsted weight yarn. And just flipping through and showing you some of the beautiful accessories you can make, like mittens, hats, and scarves. The book 60 More Quick Knits includes patterns made out of sport weight yarn. It mentions Cascade 220 Sport, but again, you could use any sport weight yarn. A quick look through this book and you can see some of the hats, mittens, scarves, and cowl patterns that are inside. The 60 Quick Baby Knits book has patterns for worsted weight yarns. It suggests Cascade 220 Superwash, but you can use any worsted weight yarn you want. Take a look at some of the patterns in here, like little sweaters, blankets, booties, and hats. The other books in this series, besides the ones I have, are 60 More Quick Baby Knits, 60 Quick Baby Blankets, 60 Quick Cotton Knits, which would be good if you're giving gifts to people who live in warm climates, 60 Quick Cowls, 60 Quick Knits Baby Essentials, 60 Quick Knits for Beginners, 60 Quick Knits for Little Kids, 60 quick knits from America's yarn shops, 60 quick knitted toys, and 60 quick luxury knits. So wow, in this series, you can find pretty much any kind of patterns you could want. Now, these 3 books that I have all retail for $17.95, so I'm guessing the other ones probably do too. I will see where I can find them the least expensive, maybe on Amazon, or sometimes you can find them on sale at other online vendors, and I will link to all of them in the description box below. Another set of knitting pattern books that I've found to be so useful is the One Skein Wonders series. I have 4 of these books, but I believe there are 6 books in the set. The ones that I have are 101 One Skein Wonders, 101 Designer One Skein Wonders, 101 Luxury Yarn One Skein Wonders, and 101 Sock Yarn One Skein Wonders. So as the name implies, every pattern in these books requires only 1 skein of yarn. Now, the sock yarn book is obviously all sock yarn, but the others are divided into sections by yarn weight. So they include 1 skein patterns out of bulky weight to lace weight yarns. Now in these books, the pattern pictures are all set apart in a separate section from the patterns. So let me give you an idea of some of the projects you can make out of the 101 One Skein Wonders book. There are hats, cowls, fingerless gloves, baby booties, different bags, and more. Let's take a look at the photo gallery in the 101 Designer One Skein Wonders book. You have scarves, slippers, toys, hats, book covers, baby sweaters, and more. In the 101 Luxury Yarn One Skein Wonders book, you'll find patterns for lots of hats, scarves, cowls, mittens, baby items, and more. Finally, in the 101 Sock Yarn One Skein Wonders, there are patterns for hats, scarves and shawls, children's things, and of course, socks. The 2 books that I don't have from this series are One Skein Wonders for Babies and Lace One Skein Wonders. The ones that I have retail for $18.95, and I'm guessing the other 2 cost the same. But again, I will try to find the lowest price for all of these and put the link to all these books in the description box below. Now, I do have another book that's similar to these, but it's not part of the same set. And this one is called One Skein: 30 Quick Projects to Knit and Crochet. So this one has both knitting and crochet patterns in it. They are fast projects that are geared toward the beginning knitter or crocheter, but they're definitely appropriate for anyone. The yarn weight varies with each pattern, so there are some chunky weight, some sport weight, some DK weight, worsted weight. The pattern tells you what weight of yarn is required. And in this book, you'll find patterns for hats, gloves and mitts, scarves, home items, and more. And this book retails for $19.95. Overall, these One Skein books are some great resources for fast patterns using up that single skein of yarn that you can't figure out what to do with. One last recommendation that I have is this booklet from Plymouth Yarn that I picked up at a yarn shop many years ago, and it's called Done by Monday Afghans. Even though I've had it for a long time, I looked online and you can still get it. If you're interested in making a relatively quick blanket or throw, this has some beautiful and easy patterns in it. Now each pattern requires 2,000 yards of worsted weight yarn, which is about 10 skeins, but you hold the yarn double and use a US size 13 needle, which is 9mm. So they actually go really fast. The whole idea behind this book is that you start the project on a Friday and you're done with it by Monday. Now let me just flip through a few pages and show you some examples of these beautiful afghans. I was thinking that if you have children or grandchildren, or really anybody would love these. The afghans are all about 45 by 50 inches as their finished dimensions, so they're a smaller size throw, not as big as a bed blanket, but they're large enough for an adult or child to wrap up in. In fact, my mom used to make this size of blankets, and she made one for everyone in the family, and she called them snugglers. And these patterns just remind me of that. So that's done by Monday Afghans by Plymouth Yarn Design Studio. And oh my gosh, I have to tell you guys, I was just looking online, and as of right now, when I'm recording this, you can get this booklet on sale from Interweave for only $3.99. And then on top of that, they're having an extra 60% off their sale items. So if you use the code EXTRA60 in the coupon code box, the price of this booklet will be $1.60. That's pretty amazing. And I'm not sure how long this sale or coupon code is going on. So if you're interested in getting this book for under $2, go on over to Interweave right now, and I will include the link down below so you'll get to the right page. All right, so those are all of my book suggestions for fast knits, and that is everything I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed seeing and hearing about my collection of favorites, my favorite patterns, as well as my favorite pattern books. What about yours? What are your favorite patterns that you can knit or crochet quickly? Or your favorite books with patterns that are fast to knit or crochet? I'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure we all would be interested to know about some other ideas for quick or last minute projects. So leave a comment with your favorites in the comment section below. Well, that brings us to the end of today's show. I hope you found some inspiration and new ideas for some quick holiday gift knitting. Let me know what you liked. Which patterns might you try out? Which books are you interested in getting? How are you doing with your holiday knitting? Are you already done? My plans are always way bigger than I have time for, so I try not to overwhelm myself with lists of knitting to be done by mid-December. But I do have a few projects that I want to finish for holiday gifts. Let me know about your situation. Leave me a comment below. And please also leave a comment if you have any questions about today's show, or if you have an idea for something you'd like to see on a future episode, or if you'd like to see a product tested. Leave your suggestions in the comment section below. I love your great ideas, and some of them are going to be featured in upcoming videos. You know that I always enjoy reading your remarks, and I appreciate your thoughts and questions that stimulate new show topics. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I'll see you in the next video. Next week will be the last of my holiday series, so I'll be talking about some more gift ideas. Next time I thought I would talk about some knitted and knitting related things that would be great for last minute gifts. I have found some fun and uncommon gifts and even some luxury items. So if you're looking for a little more holiday inspiration, I hope you come back and join me for that. And before I sign off today, I want to wish all of you watching in the US a happy Thanksgiving and safe travels if you are going away to visit family or friends. And be careful out there on Black Friday. I'll be back with another video next week. And until then, stay smart and have a sparkly week.